We're going to have two people come on who had the same topic, and we're going to see who you guys think provided the better speech given that prompt, okay? You guys don't get to grade us very often, but you're going to today. Let's welcome both of our people. I'll have them come out when I ask them to come out. Okay, so the first person today is a human person who has been doing real human person things for some time. He's not a robot, as evidenced by his innate ability to identify pictures containing stop signs and crosswalks. His brain has a capacity somewhere between 10 and 100 terabytes of information, though some neuroscientists estimate that it could contain up to 2.5 petabytes. Please welcome Mr. Matt Karnstedt. He was very jealous that he didn't get a Writers Expo t-shirt, so he tried to get pants that matched as much as possible. I'm going to invite our other contestant out first, and then we'll decide who's going to read. Yeah, you're not necessarily reading first. You can sit, you can stand, do your thing. All right, our second speaker by day courageously coaches students through the labyrinth of learning English as a second language, weaving through grammatical barriers and leaping over linguistic hurdles with the finesse of an Olympic steeplechaser. But when the final bell rings, she swaps her whiteboard markers for running shoes, chasing marathon medals like literary masterpieces. Please welcome Mrs. Alison Reifenberg. We have a very technical way of deciding who's going to go first. It's my son's little colored cube. Alison, you're cool. So if a cool color comes up, you go first. You've got the hot pants on there, Karnstedt, so if a warm color comes up, that's you. Here we go. The drama. All right, Karnstedt.
See. Oh, the prompt that we both have is, what does it mean to be human? Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Does anybody know who said that? Nope. René Descartes, 1637. So, I am a thinking being. Does that, therefore, make me human? What does it mean to be human? This question has been discussed, written about, and debated throughout human history. The answers to this question are as varied as there are ways of expression. Is it the creation of art and music? Is it the ability to socialize, communicate, and form community? Is it the ability to capture, write, and express our thoughts? To be human is a combination of all of these aspects. Human beings are fickle creatures, often drawn between contradictory interests, habits, and thoughts. Humans are at times rational beings utilizing logic, mathematics, physical sciences, and other measurable ways of discovering our universe in all of its complexity. However, human beings can also be drawn towards the metaphysical, embracing the spiritual or otherworldly with a profound faith that supersedes rational thought. The ability to live in this state of cognitive dissonance in a world of ultimate complexity is a defining trait of what it means to be human. The ability of inference and critical thought is an essential part of this human nature. Auditory and non-auditory communication is a trait shared by nearly all members of the animal kingdom, but is in the myriad ways that humans utilize these forms of communication that set them apart and define their humanity. Human communication is highly contextual. Take music, for example. Lyrics, set to a chord progression, become much more powerful depending on the surrounding musical elements. Humans have become socialized in the Western world to associate major keys with happy feelings and minor keys with sad feelings. And this reinforcement in a musical setting can change the reception of lyrics, which would otherwise have been neutral. Is the singer elated that a relationship has ended? Do they feel set free? Or are they crushed by the terrifying fears that their loneliness will now last forever because their partner has left them? Listeners can interpret the mental state of the narrator simply due to the surrounding context. Even instrumental music or choral music with no written language can be interpreted depending on the musical structures contained within the composition. It does not take a musicologist to empathize with the underlying tension and pain in Samuel Barber's Adagio for Strings, the sheer joy of the finale of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, or the teenage sarcastic angst of Olivia Rodrigo's Good For You. Noise as organized sound in the form of music is an inherent human trait. The human ability to delve into context, to discern meaning, is also an essential part of what it means to be human. Humans have the ability to take in a scene, make quick judgments, and make a decision based on complex events at the speed that even AI models cannot yet do. For one example, U.S. Airways Flight 1549 in January 2009, Captain Sully Sullenberger made an infamous emergency landing in the Hudson River in New York. The plane had lost all engine power after being struck by a flock of Canada geese. Captain Sullenberger's quick thinking saved the lives of all 155 people on board. In the investigation held by the Airbus Training Center, simulations showed that the airplane could have made a return to LaGuardia Airport instead of ditching in the river. However, all of these simulations accounted for the plane changing course immediately upon the bird strike, which would only be possible if Captain Sullenberger had the gift of prescience. In addition, these simulations increased the risk of crashing within the densely populated island of Manhattan. Captain Sullenberger then had to assess the situation, determine that normal procedures for engine loss would not apply to the scenario, and make his best judgment that would save the most amount of lives. The time it took from the initial bird strike to the decision to land in the river was a mere 20 seconds. The National Transportation Safety Board, upon completion of their own investigation, determined that the captain had made the correct decision and included the quick actions of the captain and his crewmates as a major factor in the positive outcome. Adding to the notions of communication and complexity is the fundamental human need for connection. While many members of the animal kingdom are social beings, humanity is defined by the ways in which humans both connect and disconnect with each other on an individual and societal level. Connection sparks lifelong friendships, relationships, and support systems which amplify a human's ability to make sense of the world around them. A sense of disconnect, or a lack of belonging, serves to isolate a person, often causing bitterness and hatred towards others. On a societal level, communities of people that are diverse, seeking connection, and working towards similar goals results in upward economic and social growth. Whereas isolation breeds contempt. As we walk in this world together, we must first seek to understand, then be understood. It is in this connectivity and community that we can survive, thrive, and share our humanity for generations to come.
All right, pretty good speech. We'll see if Reifenberg's better.
Okay. So, what does it mean to be human? It's a question that has captivated minds and hearts for centuries, drawing philosophers, poets, scientists, and theologians into a never-ending dialogue. To be human is to be a creature of complexity and contradiction, a blend of intellect and emotion, reason and intuition. We are endowed with the capacity for rational thought, enabling us to contemplate the mysteries of the universe and unravel the intricacies of existence. Yet at the same time, we're driven by our emotions, experiencing love, joy, sorrow, and fear in ways that defy logic and reason. Our humanity is defined not only by our cognitive abilities, but also by our capacity for empathy and compassion. We possess the remarkable ability to understand and share the feelings of others, to connect on a deep emotional level, and to extend a helping hand to those in need. It is through acts of kindness and generosity that we reaffirm our common humanity and forge bonds that transcend the boundaries of race, religion, and nationality. Furthermore, being human means embracing our imperfections and vulnerabilities. We are not infallible beings, but rather flawed and fragile creatures, prone to making mistakes and experiencing setbacks. Yet it is through our struggles and failures that we learn, grow, and ultimately find meaning and purpose in our lives. It is our ability to overcome adversity and persevere in the face of challenges that defines the strength of our humanity. At the core of our humanity lies our capacity for creativity and innovation. We are born with an innate curiosity and a drive to explore, discover, and create. From the earliest cave paintings to the latest scientific breakthroughs, human history is a testament to our boundless imagination and ingenuity. It is through our creative endeavors that we express our individuality and leave a lasting imprint on the world around us. But perhaps, above all, to be human is to yearn for connection and belonging. We are social beings, craving companionship, community, and a sense of belonging. It is in the company of others that we find solace, support, and shared purpose. Whether gathered around a campfire telling stories or connecting with loved ones halfway across the globe through technology, our ability to form meaningful relationships is what truly makes us human. In essence, being human is a journey of self-discovery and self-realization, a quest to understand ourselves and our place in the vast tapestry of existence. It is a journey marked by moments of joy and sorrow, triumph and tribulation, but ultimately one that is imbued with hope and the possibility of growth and transformation. As we navigate the complexities of the modern world, it becomes increasingly important to reflect on what it means to be human and to cultivate a deeper understanding and appreciation for our shared humanity. In a world that often seems divided by political, cultural, and ideological differences, it is crucial that we recognize our interconnectedness and embrace the values that unite us as human beings. In the face of global challenges such as climate change, poverty, and conflict, it is our collective humanity that offers hope for a brighter future. By coming together in solidarity and cooperation, we have the power to address these pressing issues and build a more sustainable and equitable world for all. Let us not lose sight of our common humanity and the potential we hold to create positive change in the world. As I reflect on what it means to be human, I'm reminded of the words of the poet Walt Whitman, who wrote, "I am large. I contain multitudes." Indeed, each of us is a universe unto ourselves, with depths yet to be explored and potentials yet to be realized. And it is in embracing the fullness of our humanity, with all its complexities and contradictions, that we truly come alive. In closing, let us celebrate the richness and diversity of the human experience, embracing our shared humanity and honoring the inherent dignity and worth of every individual. For it is in recognizing our common humanity that we find the courage to transcend our differences and build a more just, compassionate, and harmonious world for generations to come.
All right, here's how we're going to do this. We're going to decide who had the better speech via a decibel meter. When I say the person's name, you're going to have 5 seconds to make as much noise as you want for that individual, okay? Whichever one you are voting for, believing they had the better speech. And in that 5 seconds, I will take a look at the average decibel level to determine the winner, okay? All right, if you think Mr. Karnstedt was the better speech, make some noise. Okay. We had about an 88 average, a max of 106. If you think that Reifenberg had the better speech, make some noise. So I don't think it reads above 106, because that was also the max. It seemed louder than that to me, but the average was definitely higher. Congratulations, Mrs. Reifenberg. Oh, but wait. One of the speeches was actually written by ChatGPT. And you guys voted for that speech. Congratulations. Well done. All right, the next event. I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah, you guys can stay there. That's fine. You can stay. The next event is another fan favorite. It is called Two Truths and a Lie. Fun because you're going to get 3 teachers who will each tell you a 5-ish minute story. 2 of the teachers are telling a true story. One of the teachers is lying. Your job is to try and determine which teacher is lying, because after they each tell their story, you will have a chance to ask questions, probing that, and then at the end we will vote to see if we can determine who the liar actually is. Okay, now these people do not get fancy introductions because they have fancy stories, but please welcome nonetheless Doc Brown, Mrs. Singleton, and Mr. Wieczorek. I have a feeling I know how this is going to go. The first person to share their story is determined by the audience. Shout it out. Doc Brown, come on up.
Thank you. My name is Jeff Brown. Here's my story. It was a brisk November morning in Boston, Massachusetts, where a young Jeff was anxiously awaiting his first rehearsal with the Tanglewood Festival Chorus, the performing choir for the Boston Symphony Orchestra. Jeff was fresh out of college. He moved halfway across the country to relocate to New England. It was really cold that morning, and he had not yet adapted to the extreme New England winters. I'd been asked by the conductor of the choir, John Oliver, no, not the host of HBO's Last Week Tonight, to sing in a smaller group of chorus members who would be featured with the Boston Pops Orchestra on a broadcast of Holiday at Pops live from Symphony Hall in Boston. This was way back in the 1900s, before the internet, so being able to watch a concert live on television was extremely cool. As soon as I'd gotten the invitation, I called my parents on the telephone to tell them the exciting news. There were no smartphones way back in the 1900s. I gave them the date and time so that they could drive over to my aunt's house, who had cable, to watch the live broadcast on the A&E channel, which stood for Arts and Entertainment. On that chilly November morning, young Jeff was waiting on the stoop for a ride to rehearsal. I didn't have a car at the time. You didn't need one to live in downtown Boston. You could walk most places, and public transportation would take you to most places that you couldn't walk. That particular morning, our choir rehearsal was outside of Boston in a small town called Framingham, and it wasn't accessible by public transportation, so I needed a ride. I remember arriving quite early, and my friend and I were sort of the only ones there waiting to get started. For some reason, the rehearsal I remember being in a TV studio, and there were chairs set up and a piano. I don't know why, but my friend and I were chatting, and the director, John Oliver, walked in. I need to back up a minute and provide some context. During the rehearsal process, there was this section of music that hadn't been clarified by John. One of the songs we were singing was called The Holly and the Ivy. Remember Holiday at Pops, Holly and the Ivy, it's a holiday song. There was a tenor solo in the piece that John never assigned to anyone in the choir. I never even thought he would consider giving it to me, as I was a brand new choir member and there was plenty of capable singers who could manage the solo, and they'd been in the choir for a long time. Okay, back to my story. My friend and I were talking in the empty studio. John walks in. I said hello, and we were chatting about how cold it was outside. As he was walking away to put his stuff down, I said, "Hey, John, we'll be singing that solo in the Holly and the Ivy today." He said, "Well, why don't you do it?" I was like, "Are you sure?" He said, "Absolutely." My friend raised their eyebrows and was like, "Hey," giving me a reassuring look as John walked away. I was nervous to say the least, but also really excited for this opportunity. The rest of the choir started filing in, and soon we were in the middle of an intense rehearsal with John. I forgot one thing. Did I mention that the live broadcast on the A&E network was going to be that same night as the rehearsal that he said I could sing the solo? Did I say that yet? Oh, I didn't. the exact same day, there was no soloist for the piece, and then the soloist was me. Needless to say, knowing that if my solo was really good, I would get to sing it on live television. So I was freaking out. The time had come in rehearsal. John said, "Take out the holly and the ivy." My heart started pounding. I thought he would tell the choir that this new tenor from Texas was going to do the solo in the middle of the piece. But he didn't say anything. He just started. The solo came up. It was sort of layered over some tenors and basses. When the time came, I took a breath and I gave it my best. I can remember people were kind of looking around and they were kind of smiling, and then some weren't paying attention. They didn't care. When the song was over, John said to the choir, "That was Jeff Brown on the solo, everybody." They applauded. At the end of rehearsal, many of the chorus members came up to me to introduce themselves and tell me how well I had sung. I was so thrilled. My friend and I talked all the way back to Boston in the car and how excited we were to sing on live television that evening. My apartment at that time was right down the street from Symphony Hall, so I could walk there. I called Mom and Dad. I wanted to make sure they were watching. They were at my aunt's house, and I told them about the solo. They were super excited. I hadn't seen them in a long time. I'd been away for like a year, so this would be the first time they would have seen me singing on television. Again, I'll remind you, way back in the 1900s, 1996 specifically, there was no FaceTime, there was no YouTube, there was no Google Meets, no Zoom, no Instagram, no Snapchat, no TikTok, no anything like that where we could just talk and see someone right in the palm of our hand. For my parents, being able to watch me sing all the way across the country was really cool. I got dressed in my tuxedo, I walked down to Symphony Hall, we warmed up, we sang my solo again. It was my solo now. One more time in the rehearsal room before we filed onto the stage to get ready for the broadcast. The Boston Pops had a brand new conductor. His name is Keith Lockhart. And we had already rehearsed with him, so we were ready to go. The audience was coming in. The orchestra was getting ready. They were doing their thing. They were warming up. We were waiting for the green light from the TV cameras to know that we were live on the broadcast. The show started. It was going really well. The choir sounded great. The orchestra was amazing. And the audience loved everything we were doing. About halfway through the show, it was time for my song, The Holly and the Ivy. It was a cappella, so it didn't have any accompaniment. And the orchestra was just sitting staring at us on the stage. I can remember this. It came time for my solo. I started singing, and out of the corner of my eye, I could see this camera swing over the orchestra, coming right over by me in my peripheral vision, aiming right at me. I just sang my heart out, tried to ignore it. The song finished, the audience applauded, and we continued with the concert. I had just sung a solo on live television for the first time. When the concert was over, everyone was extremely complimentary at the after party, and I was on cloud 9. I called my parents when I got home. They couldn't have been more excited to see their son singing on television in Little East, Texas, all the way from Boston. The moral of the story is, if you want something, don't be afraid to ask for it, because you never know when you just might get it. I'm Jeff Brown. Thanks for listening.
Singleton, your warm colors. Mr. Wieczorek, your cool colors. The next person to go will be... Oh, did I say it wrong?
Dr. Brown is tall. Oh, good. How's everybody doing? Good? All right. So I'm Cam Wieczorek. I teach math here at LHS, and one thing I love to do is write cheesy math songs for my students, where I'll take popular songs and spin the lyrics to be about a math topic that we're learning in class. Solving equations in algebra class, taking derivatives in calculus class, some good old SOHCAHTOA in geometry class, things like that. And I thought it could be cool to tell you guys the story of what actually sparked that idea to start writing those math tunes. I had just graduated college from the University of Illinois and was excited to start my new career as a math teacher. My friends Dan, Tess, Steve, and I decided to celebrate our recent graduation by going to a Howie Day, Jason Mraz joint concert at Ravinia. Okay, quick poll, because I know our music tastes might be different. Do a shout out if you've heard of Jason Mraz. Okay, that's some Jason Mraz fans. Do a shout out if you've heard of Howie Day. Okay, not as many. Oh man, he sings that song Collide. It was a radio hit when I was growing up. That's your homework, is to Spotify that. So you got to listen to that song. It's called Collide. Anyway, they were doing a joint concert at Ravinia, which is in Highland Park, right around the corner from us here. And my friend Dan, his cousin, actually worked at Ravinia, and it was really cool. He was able to get us a backstage pass ahead of time to meet Jason Mraz. I was like super pumped because I've been a huge Jason Mraz fan since, I don't even know how long. It's been a long time. So I was really pumped, and Howie Day was doing a sound check since he was going to be playing first, so he was busy kind of testing out, getting ready for his set. But Jason was backstage. Jason was backstage talking with some Ravinia employees, and so Dan's cousin was able to introduce us, and he was super laid back and happy to meet us. We explained that we had just recently graduated and had come out to celebrate by enjoying his music. We're all huge Jason fans. Side note, I'm also a Howie Day fan, so bonus for me that I got to see them both. And so he then asked each of us what we were planning to do now with our lives since we were done with college. I told him I was about to start teaching math right around the corner from Ravinia, actually, at Edgewood Middle School in Highland Park. And Jason replied and said that he really respected what teachers do, and then continued on to say something that got me thinking and actually really stuck with me. He said, they say math and music go well together. And I told him I agreed, and that I even played the piano and guitar myself. And it was a really cool experience to get to meet him, and for kind of to hear about that, like, you sometimes always hear about, oh, math and music go together, but to actually hear it from a real-life performing artist that goes around touring, like, it kind of just, I don't know, it stuck with me. And so we left and enjoyed an awesome concert back at our seats, and went back to the parking lot, got in the car, was driving home, of course, to some Jason Mraz tunes. And I was pulling up Spotify and turned on my favorite Jason Mraz song. Anybody want to take a guess what that might be? I'm Yours, yeah. So, I'm yours. As I was listening to the song, as I was listening to the song, something just, I don't know, it was just, sometimes, when you have solo think time and you can think just a little bit better just when you're kind of by yourself and just like a tranquil environment. I was listening to the song and I just felt like the melody would make a good jingle, kind of like just like an advertising jingle that you hear on TV. And it hit me based on Jason's comment from earlier about the math and music connection. I started thinking, how could I adapt that song, I'm Yours, and use math lyrics instead? And the first topic that came into my head was SOHCAHTOA. For those of you in geometry, you probably know what that is. Those of you in my class, I tested you on it, you should. And I'm wearing a cheesy math shirt today, which shows you that sine gerene divided by cosine gerene is tangerine. It's an orange. Okay. So you can tell it's one of my favorite math topics, right? So naturally, I thought, okay, I have to write a song about this, and what better tune to use than I'm Yours by Jason Mraz. So anyway, let's see, what was that? I thought maybe having a catchy tune with the topics I was teaching would help keep students' interest and retain the information easier, especially for students who maybe math was not their favorite subject. My goal was kind of like, even if it reached one student, I thought that'd be pretty cool. And I thought of all different things that had to do with SOHCAHTOA: right triangles, special right triangles, 30, 60, 90s, 45, 45, 90s, even the TI-84 calculator, the Pythagorean theorem. I was on a roll, just driving home, listening to some Jason. And after a few days, didn't happen right away, but after a few days, my first math tune was written to the tune of I'm Yours, and I was able to share it with my honors geometry class that first year of teaching. And from there, the rest is history. I now have written over a dozen math tunes to popular cover songs like Don't Stop Believin', Drops of Jupiter, and Good Riddance, Time of Your Life. There's even a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Rhombus. Writing these math tunes has allowed me to have a fun and memorable way to connect with my students, and really none of it at all would have been possible and wouldn't have gotten the idea sparked had it not been for that quick meet and greet with Jason Mraz. So thanks, Jason.
You're both taller than me. Okay, here we go. As the sunlight poured down from the sky, I drove down my street in my typical suburban neighborhood. School was done for the day, and for once my homework load was light. Pulling into my driveway, I noticed something next to our mailbox that was long, wiggly, and dark. My bright mood disappeared. Fear gripped my lungs. There was a snake in our yard. This wasn't any ordinary snake. Oh no. This was a big, vicious, poisonous snake. I knew without taking a closer look that our lives were in danger. After I pulled into the garage, my brother Greg and I raced from the car into the house. I slammed the door shut, panting. My hands began to shake. Is that what I think it is? I demanded. I think so, my brother replied, but he didn't seem as sure as I was. We raced up to the second floor and tried to look out my bedroom window. The angle wasn't quite right, though. We tried my brother's window, but the view wasn't much better. You have to go out and look at it, I told my brother. No way, he said. You have to, I insisted, taking my right as the bossy big sister. Instead of walking out onto the driveway, Greg took the car. Yeah, he was just as freaked out as I was. He backed the car down the driveway, peered out the passenger window, and pulled back in. Yeah, it's a snake, a big one. Maybe a rattlesnake, he told me once he was back in the safety of our house. That's it, I said. I'm calling animal control. The first time I called, I had to leave a message. So then I called my mom. My fear was growing. I had convinced myself that the snake was out to get me and my family, so I refused to let my dog out of the house. No way was I letting that snake near her. My mom assured me that she would be home soon, but I knew that it would take her at least 20 minutes to get home from work. We didn't have that kind of time, so I called animal control again and left a second message. Then I called again and left a third message. Finally, after what seemed like years, animal control pulled up in front of our house about the same time my mom arrived home from work. I watched in absolute terror as the officer pulled out a long pole with a hook on the end. He walked over to the mailbox and captured the snake. At this point, my entire body was violently shaking with fear. My mom met me on the porch, and the officer approached us. I'm ugly crying. I mean that snot coming out of your nose and you can't quite catch your breath, sobbing. The officer held up his pole with a long black rubbery item hanging from it. Is this some kind of joke? He asked. This is a toy, he said, referring to the snake at the end of his pole. Yeah, that's right. I called animal control 3 times because a child's toy was in my front yard.
All right, we got exactly like 3 or 4 minutes here for questions to try and figure out who the liar is. If you guys can repeat the question so everybody knows exactly what it was. If you have a question to try and figure out who the liar is, raise your hand high so that we can see it. Oh, yes, go for it, Caroline. What town did the snake story take place in?
Indianapolis on the northeast side.
Middle there, yeah.
For Dr. Brown, what year in college were you?
Actually was not in college at the time.
Front right here, or front left for you guys.
Can you sing the song that you made up on the day?
So this was the final product. I don't have my guitar right here, but I'll do a solo. So it goes, well, I got a right triangle, bunch of sides are missing. Can't find an angle that's a 30, 45, or 60. I reckon it can be right too. Oh, what else can I do? The math teacher told me about a thing called SOHCAHTOA, a bunch of random letters in a very crazy order, and then he said to me, you can calculate sine CO, well, so means sine, it's the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. That's a little simple.
You can't fake that, that's for sure. All right, yep, pink sweatshirt.
Okay, I have a question for Mr. Wieczorek.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, wait, didn't you say that you were teaching middle school first?
I was, yeah.
So did you teach geometry in middle school?
I did. I taught honors geometry to 8th graders at Edgewood Middle School in Highland Park, which is right around the corner, probably less than a half mile away from Ravinia, actually.
Okay.
Kelsey.
Dr. Brown, can you sing that solo?
I can't remember the words, but of the solo part. But the tune is "The holly and the ivy
That's the tune.
I can't remember the part that I
Lip syncing. I think he was lip syncing. Anyone else? Question? All right, let's do the vote. You're going to vote with your feet by standing up. So if you think Doc Brown is actually a big liar, go ahead and stand up. Okay, not many. Not many at all. If you think Mr. Wieczorek is actually the liar, go ahead and stand up. Also not many. Mrs. Singleton, if she's the liar, stand up. Okay. Let's find out. Could the real liar please stand up? He got you. He totally got you. All right, so Mr. Wieczorek particularly, question about the writing, since it's a Writers' Expo. How did you decide upon that story?
So it's kind of a mix of things. So there are tiny little truths throughout, but just to clarify, the big lie, I never met Jason Mraz as much as I'd like to. He never even had a joint show at Ravinia with Howie Day. The reason I brought Howie Day into the mix, so this part is true, I did end up writing a math tune for my calculus class. So shout out to my AP Calc class, period 1, if anybody's in here. I wrote a song about tangent lines and the derivative to the tune of Collide by Howie Day, and I actually tagged him on Instagram, and he responded. And said like, oh, cool, now there's a version about mathematics just like there is about particle physics. Awesome. And I still screenshotted it, and I kind of want to like put it on my board next year because it's super cool. So it's funny because I tried to make the story more highlighted on Jason Mraz, which I did write a math tune that you just heard a little snippet of to that. It was not my first one, that's also a lie. My first one was about the quadratic formula to the tune of Let It Be by the Beatles. So also a lie. These are all on YouTube, by the way. So, but yeah, so I did not meet Jason Mraz. I did not, unfortunately, get the chance to interact with him in any way. I love his music. That was not a lie. My friend's cousin does work at Ravinia, so I thought that was kind of an interesting tie-in when I was trying to make this believable. You got to find a way to make it believable that you got a backstage pass to meet Jason Mraz, I think. So, you guys believe that? I don't know. Shout out. Anybody believe that? Well, I guess you guys did because you voted it. So, yeah, does that answer your question? Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, guys.